guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with Joey. And how you doing, Joey?
Yeah, doing good. It feels like our lives are just out of control, but I'm so glad we can find time for each other like this.
We're just out of control Scorpios. I love it. That's why we get along so well.
Yes.
So today we're going to be talking about a topic that touches a lot of people's lives, and that is alcohol. And we're going to talk about what it actually does to your body. So I know you have mentioned before, Joey, that you don't drink. So
Right, right.
yeah, do you want to share why, and then I can share
Oh,
my views on it?
yeah, it's really simple. I've just never developed a taste for it. When I was younger, here's what happened in New York, where I grew up. You were in 18, you could drink back when I don't know the 80s or something. And then I turned 18. I started drinking with my friends, and then they switched it to 19. Like I don't know, 2 months into my 18th birthday, right? And they said you have to be 19 to drink. So all of a sudden we weren't able to drink anymore. And I was like, okay, I didn't really care for it anyway. And then when I became 19, I was able to drink again. And then 2 months into that, they changed it to 21. But this time they said if you were 19, you were grandfathered in, right? So I've been able to drink since I was 19. I just never developed a taste for it, even through like my 20s. And I've never been drunk where I'm hanging over a toilet. I've never had any of that. Now I would go out after work. I was a bartender or a waiter, and I've worked in a bar too. And everyone would be drinking and drinking and drinking, and I'd have one 7 and 7 or a beer, and that was kind of like enough for me. I was like, I don't really love this or anything. So I feel lucky that I've just never developed any type of attachment to this. So
And that's good. That's
yeah.
good. So I'm similar. I never really liked drinking. A lot of my friends would drink, and you kind of just doing it because everybody's doing it, kind of a thing, peer pressure. But never really liked it. I was a lightweight, so like I'd have one drink and I could feel it, and I didn't like that feeling of being out of control. Um, and then plus, I grew up in a family that he's passed away, but he's an alcoholic. So that kind of turned me off from alcohol, just seeing that behavior in my own home. And just over the years, I mean, I would drink occasionally, but not like every week, every month. I mean, it would be a couple times a year. And we went on a cruise in March, and I hadn't really drank a lot for a while. And I thought, oh, everybody's drinking wine, I'll have a drink. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't like this. So I'm like, so that just, cemented it. And then now some of the stuff we're going to talk about today really confirms why alcohol is not such a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously now know. Remember when, like, smoking, like during the I Love Lucy era and all that, doctors would do smoking commercials, and no one knew it was bad, right? They were
Right.
all, everyone's doing this. I think everyone's kind of known in the beginning that alcohol is a problem, right? So we didn't really have that, but we're still not any closer to being an alcohol-free society, no matter how much information is out there. And you know, for like you and I who look at this as and I can only imagine what a struggle this is for people. I know how addictive it is. So, and I know, just you and I going through life, just stuff we share every day. Like I can see why people need something to grasp onto, right? So,
Right.
not that anyone's better than anyone else. This is definitely an illness, but you know, it definitely affects like your health and your clarity and being able to live your best life, right?
I
Um,
agree.
so there's all sorts of medical problems. It damages your liver and your brain, and you may fall asleep faster, but it messes up your sleep. Like there's all sorts of problems that come along with. Like if you've got problems and you turn to alcohol, I mean, obviously you may not be able to help yourself, but you turn to alcohol, your problems don't get any better. They just get worse, right?
Right. Yeah, and the things we're going to talk about are coming from a couple of experts. So we do have science to back it up, and I'm going to look at my notes here. But the first one is from Dr. Sarah Wakeman, and she works at Mass General in Brigham and also Harvard Medical School, and she specializes in alcohol and addiction. And she's been on a couple podcasts, Diary of a CEO, and then also Mel Robbins. And she's got some really great information. And then also Dr. Kristi Funk, who is a plant-based OBGYN, but she's not an OBGYN, she's a breast cancer surgeon. And she's the founder of Pink Lotus. That's her website. So this is where I've got this information.
So I love that we have some experts. I think Dr. Kristi Funk, I've heard her name before. So I guess she comes up in the community a lot. Uh, you know, alcohol isn't a nutrient, right? It's not something people are like, oh, in Italy, they drink plenty of wine and they're all fine. Like, it's just not part of a healthy, like, trend or track or anything like that. It's definitely a toxin.
Mm-hmm.
Your body recognizes it as a poison and it starts jumping in and getting to work to get rid of it, right? And it works really hard to do that. And that, takes a lot of energy. So I don't know. I mean, people talk about how it complements a meal and it could be a healthy part of a diet and all that. And it really isn't, right?
Right. And here's the kicker that you talked about, the body wants to get rid of it. And while the body is processing that alcohol, your fat burning process stops because it's prioritizing getting rid of that alcohol because it sees it as a poison. And for up to 24 hours, it can stop. And if you're trying to lose fat like we are, then alcohol is definitely a no-no. And we're not judging people that want to have a glass of wine. That's not what we're saying. But I think you should have the information that we're giving you today, just so you can make an informed decision.
And I feel like there's a lot of alcohol consumption and not really realizing it when you're doing some other like forms of like medication and all that. Like if you're taking medication and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. If you're taking, well, alcohol can also increase anxiety and depression because it is a depressant. And if you're taking anti-anxiety medications like Xanax or Ativan, Klonopin, then that can be really dangerous because it can slow down your breathing and you want to keep breathing. So that could be really dangerous if you are taking some of those medications. And that's just to name a few. And yeah, it's really important to read those side effects and contraindications.
Yeah, and besides all that stuff, your sleep gets messed up too. Like you and I
Mm.
have been really focused on trying to, as we're getting older, trying to live our healthiest, best life, right? Where
Hmm.
we're trying to get more protein to make sure our bones are protected. We're trying to cut down on fats. We're trying to get in a healthy weight zone where we're not going to develop like diabetes and all the stuff that the average American gets, right, or average person. So, and part of that, you and I know that not only is exercise and diet important, but the third part of it is sleep, right? Like
Right.
without sleep, you've got nothing. You don't have healing. And sleep gets wrecked by alcohol. Like
Absolutely.
I remember like I would go out with friends and I'd have a beer or two and never more than that. And I'd be like, all of a sudden I'm tired and I can't wait to lay down. And then you fall asleep. You're like, oh man, I'm ready to go to bed. And then you get in the middle of the night and now you're getting up to pee and you're walking around and now you're awake and your sleep schedule just gets messed up, right? And then you eventually got to get up for work and you feel like I didn't get any sleep at all. So I mean, sleep is just destroyed with alcohol.
Right. It totally messes with your sleep cycle. You may fall asleep faster, but you're not getting that restful sleep. You'll go into that deep sleep because your body cycles through. There's REM, there's deep sleep,
Right.
there's light sleep, and you've got to go through all those cycles, and it just messes it all up. And then you talked about getting up to go pee. It also affects your kidneys. It lessens the effect of the ADH hormone, which is the antidiuretic hormone. And so even if you just drank a little bit, then you start peeing and then you're dehydrated. And that's part of the reason you feel so crappy in the morning is you're just dehydrated.
Yeah, but I love that you bring the medical part of this. I really don't bring anything to this, but you bring the medical part, which is so real cool because you're a nurse. I love that. All right. So, yeah. So obviously we've got all sorts of issues with sleep. And then, one of the things you and I have been through some different plant-based diets, but I can probably confidently say that our gut issues, regardless of what plant-based diet we're on, were probably pretty, like we didn't have a lot of gut
Hmm.
issues. And
Right.
I feel like, we were doing starch solution. Now we're doing high protein and all that. But we're still eating like mostly whole foods and healthy foods. And
Yeah.
we all know like the microbiome, that's like, that's a host of all these little alien microbes in you, right? They're like not even human, and that's what keeps you healthy and all that. And you can either feed that with the bad stuff to make you not healthy, or you can feed it with the good stuff to make you healthy. And alcohol like messes up your gut. It gives you leaky gut. Just there's nothing positive that happens in your gut or emotionally with alcohol.
Right. And you were talking about the red wine and how there was studies that, oh, a glass of red wine is good for you. But it was really the plant component of the wine that was good for you, the resveratrol, not the alcohol. The alcohol is the poison part. So that's kind of been debunked in recent studies. So that's important to know too. And then just like the long term effects are crazy. So Kristi Funk says that no amount of alcohol is safe, especially in regards to breast cancer. So if you've got that running in your family, then alcohol should be off the table. It raises hormone levels, which can, increases your risk. Dr. Kristi Funk also said women that are plant-based, that exercise, and don't drink alcohol, their risk is cut in half for breast cancer. And if that's for perimenopause, if you're postmenopause, your risks are cut by 80%. That should do it right there.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole show on breast cancer because so much
Yeah,
of that, like what you just said, 80%, I've heard this over and over again, 80% of it is really preventable by what you eat and drink. So
exactly.
that alone is scary considering how much breast cancer we have, right? Uh,
Hmm.
we talked about on other podcasts how, so many people die every year of heart disease. So many, and all of these things like can be minimized or I don't know if it really be prevented, but so many of it could be, minimized by just changing what you eat and drink. So I feel like there's a whole show on that. But yes, the whole breast cancer thing with women, alcohol is not your friend at all. All right, Dad. Obviously, I don't know much about perimenopausal women. I may look like one, but I don't really know. I don't really know about being one. But I'm going to go with you on that. So that's a huge deal. 80%.
Yeah,
I can't if I was a woman, right? Like I would immediately be cutting out these risk factors that could put me in that position.
it makes sense. And then another scary thing is your liver. Now, your liver is a really resilient organ. It can regenerate, but it gets to a point where it's not going to do that anymore. And you're going to start off with inflammation, then it's going to go to fatty liver, and fatty liver goes to cirrhosis, and that's when you're going to need a liver transplant. So, and this is in regards to heavy drinking, which Dr. Wakeman says that if you're drinking 10 ounces of hard alcohol a week, or 35 ounces of like wine or beer in a week, then that's considered higher drinking,
So that's
or
interesting.
high risk. It's high risk drinking. You're in the high.
And
That's a
and
lot of alcohol.
Yeah, I think, I mean, almost. So we have, one of the doctors saying that any alcohol is going to be bad for, your health, and another one, and others experts saying, well, here's where it turns into heavy drinking, right? And I mean, I think people don't really have in their mind, well, I'm a casual drinker, right? Like I just drink when I go out, which is 4 times a week, right? Or I just have a glass of wine at home, and having kind of a definitive line is probably a good idea, but really I think if you're trying to do maximum health, like we just said before, adding any drinking to that is not going to put you down that path. So we've heard a lot. I mean, I feel like fatty liver has come up so much in probably the last 5 or 10 years, right?
Hmm.
And not just from alcohol, but some all sorts of diseases. And like you said, the liver is an amazing organ, and it does some regeneration and all that. But you know, there's just so much it can take, and then it's like screw it, like I've done all I can, right? This You're a lost cause.
Right. Yeah,
So
you're not immortal, so
yeah,
that's going to give up on you. And like the effects it has on your brain with heavy drinking, dementia,
yeah,
your brain will shrink. I mean, memory issues, that's scary,
yeah.
you know?
So there's this risk level for women and anyone over 65, like you were saying, more than 10 ounces of liquor or 35 ounces of wine per week. I grew up in a family that didn't drink, but I'm Italian, right? I'm 100% Italian. There's always wine, right? It's just always out. And I remember, Deb, I used to go to Weight Watchers because I forever been battling calories, right? And although I didn't drink, the people there were like, wow, I'm counting my points, and I didn't realize, like, it's my first week on Weight Watchers. I had 2 or 3 glasses of wine with dinner, and that was like 800 calories. I'm like, you had 2 or 3 glasses of wine with your dinner? Like, so that to me, as someone who doesn't drink, that was kind of shocking. But everyone around there was just like, oh yeah, no, I had a glass and I had no idea. And I'm like, holy smoke, like, are we that is wine and like a beer that integrated into our meals as society that we're just adding all these extra calories, and they were just there for calories, right? They weren't there, to stop drinking. So, and I was just like, this is amazing. Like, this is pretty wild information to study, that just casual drinking doesn't mean you went out to a bar with your friends. Casual drinking could mean sitting down at dinner, right?
Right. Alcohol is just so normalized in our culture that people don't even, you know, second guess it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll have wine with dinner, when you go to a restaurant, oh, here's the wine list. It's just so common.
It's strange because we've had divorces in our families, right? Uh, which is pretty wild. I love that me and Tim together 21 years is one of the only couples in both of our families that did not ever get divorced, right? But when I look back at all that, almost all of them were couples who, they went out on the weekends with their friends, and they drank and had people over their house for parties, and there was always alcohol involved. And anytime they had fights, I'd always be like, they're fighting, but I mean, all this started with alcohol. Like, if they just stayed home and didn't start, hanging out with their friends drinking, would this really be an issue? So, I mean, I think the effects, the long-reaching effects of alcohol, all go way beyond like you and yourself and your body. I think when you're paired up with someone who kind of has the same outlook on you on alcohol, you're going down a path that can be really tough to stay, stable on.
Right. It can be very destructive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And I did want to mention, going back to menopause, that alcohol is a vasodilator, so it dilates your vessels. And if you have a couple drinks, you start feeling like kind of warm. Well, if you have hot flashes, it's just going to make it worse. So if you're having hot flashes, alcohol is just going to exacerbate the whole thing. So just a
Yeah.
little hot tip there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of myths around alcohol. I think there's a lot of like you said, normalization, right? People
Mhm.
will say, "Hey, they'll say moderate drinking is good. It's good for the heart." Well, of course, it's not. It's not good for the heart. It's not good for your relationship. It's not good for any, productivity or any goals you've got. If you set out a list of, hey, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, maybe do a vision board. Normally, alcohol doesn't fit into, and here's where I'm going to have my wine, right, or my beer with my
Yeah,
friend.
yeah,
It just doesn't happen. And then you have a lot of people, like we just said, just think like red wine. I'm just going to have, like, when people are trying to lose weight, they'll be like, oh, listen, I'm going to drink vodka and grapefruit because there's no carbohydrates and there's no calories, right? And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's a good plan. People say the same thing about wine, right? About red wine. Oh, listen, I'm just going to cut down the red wine. I'm just going to have it with dinner, right? Like,
right.
is that going to be a good option? What do you think?
Well, not if you have, risk factors, but I think from what I'm learning, no, that's not a good option. Um, and I talk to patients at work. I have to do their intake for surgeries, and one of the questions is always, "Do you drink alcohol?" Yes. How often? Oh, rarely. I always have to ask, "What does that mean to you? Once a year?" Because that's rarely to me. Oh
Right.
no, 2, 3 times a week. People grossly underestimate the amount of alcohol that they drink. And I feel like people do that with food too. You grossly underestimate your calories. It's the same thing with alcohol.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I only drink like on the weekends, but you're drinking like 4 drinks, a day of
Yeah.
hard alcohol. So,
So
yeah,
that is true with food, like you just said. I will do the same thing. I may laugh because people say that about alcohol, but if you ask me, it's like, well, how often do you have sugar? Oh, rarely. Oh, so once a year? Oh, no, no, like, every day, but not all the time. Like, I would do the exact same thing. And addiction is an addiction, right? Like, that's just it.
right.
So this could really pertain to anything. But yeah, rarely, like you said, is, gosh, I don't even remember that the last time I had it, and 3 times a week is definitely not rare. So Uh,
exactly.
if I listen to myself answer a question like that from someone, I would say, "Oh my God, I have a problem," right? Uh, it would not go well. So, yeah,
But there are things you can do. I
yeah,
mean, we're not saying that you have to cut it out 100%. I
right,
mean, that would be great if you did, but I know that that's not a reality. But you could try to, limit it. You could maybe do some alcohol-free days,
yeah,
or limit the amount of start measuring your alcohol. Like, okay, I've had 3 ounces this week. That's good. You
right.
know, things like that. And there is
So,
kind of more and more people doing alcohol-free
yes,
things, I've
there is.
noticed.
There's more of a movement of an alcohol-free movement going on for sure, which is pretty exciting, right? People are realizing
Yeah.
you don't need alcohol to socialize. You don't need to for all that. You don't need it to relax or to celebrate. Plus there's more great alcohol-free alternatives than ever. So recently, I did go out to a club to hang out, and I really wanted to socialize and all that. And I was surprised, Deb, at the amount of alcohol-free beers they had at the bar. And even like, what's the one where you put the lime in on the top? You squeeze the lime, the Corona, right? Uh, Corona, I remember having to put a lime in because it was nasty, right? And they're like, "Oh, do you want a non-alcoholic Corona?" I'm like, "There's non-alcoholic Corona." I'm like, "Do you need the lime?" They're like, "No." So I had it, and I was like, "Holy smoke, this tastes just like Corona." So if you're in it just to and no one's like looking at me going, "Oh, check out that guy. His beer bottle is like non-alcoholic. What's wrong with him?" Right? Like no one's saying that. So if you just want to socialize, you could absolutely do that without the actual alcohol part of it. So uh, there's definitely this movement because of like I'm noticing now there's more alcohol-free choices.
Hmm.
There's definitely a movement.
Mocktails.
Yeah, people are like people. At least it's recognized by big companies that this movement is gaining some steam, right?
Right. And and if somebody does say something, who cares? It's like really, it's well, people do say like, well, why don't you drink? Like that's I'm a weirdo or something.
Right.
It's just like, why don't you eat meat? It's that kind of a thing because we are they feel threatened or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you think you're better than me? And I'm like, you can do whatever you want. I
I,
don't care. This is my choice.
I,
Yeah.
I
But,
always
go
Yeah, I
ahead.
would be like, I don't care what you eat. People are like, you're a vegan. What do you think? You think you're trying to save the environment? I'm like, no, I eat the environment. Like, I'm not trying to save the environment. Like, I kind of am, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'll just say no, and then I'll often say, listen, I don't care what you eat. I'm not here to hold a sign and pat you over the head with it. Eat whatever you want. Like, I'm just choosing not to do this, and thanks for asking, right? So that's it.
Go
If you're
ahead.
ready to step away from alcohol, right, altogether, there's definitely alternatives. There's sparkling water, alcohol-free wines, mocktails, or just plain plant-powered living. Even though a lot of alcohol is plant-based, there's you can join an ever-growing movement, and there's definitely no shame or anything like that by not drinking. We see this as vegans a lot. Someone's ordering a bunch of steak and all that, and you're at a table of seven, and everyone's ordering some meat meal. And the minute you're like, "I'll have a salad. Can you hold the cheese?" And I'll have the tofu or something. And like you just said, someone would be like, "You're a vegan. Are you trying to change something?" And like you said, when you do something different than everyone else, you're extreme, right?
Hmm.
Like, okay, your meal was just like electrocuted and drowned and slaughtered, and I had a potato and I'm extreme, right? Like, so just because they say that doesn't make it true, right? It just
Right.
makes them feel better about it. So you definitely are not alone in wanting to, if you're trying to give up alcohol and live differently.
If you are concerned about your alcohol consumption, then seek the advice of a professional. I know that, like you said, it's addictive. Not everyone can just quit cold turkey, but we're hoping that by the information we're giving you, you'll take a good look at your own drinking and maybe some of the changes you can make.
Yeah, if you're truly a casual drinker where you just drink because, you're casually wanting to fit in and you don't have like an addiction or something, then this really is in your hands, right? If you have an addiction, you need help. You need a doctor,
Right.
and you're not going to. most likely won't be able to do this alone. And that's an illness for sure that you'll need help with. So here's the bottom line. So alcohol is definitely a toxin. There's nothing as, there's no way it fits into a healthy food plan. It messes with your brain, your liver, your sleep, your mood. It messes up fat burning. I mean, don't sit there and say you're counting calories because you're burning fat and then have 2 glasses of wine. That's not going to work. And it raises cancer risks for sure, right? Especially breast cancer. So
Yeah.
it's a flag right there.
If you would like more information about breast cancer, then you can follow Dr. Kristi Funk. Her website is pinklotus.com.
Yeah, she's doing some great stuff there. All right, Deb, let's give them a word to type in if they're watching on YouTube, right? So our
Right.
YouTube audience, let's go with the word alcohol.
Love
If you
it.
made it this far, and then you can type your comment. We'd love to hear it because we love going through all these, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And let us know how you feel about alcohol in the comments below. We'd like to hear from you. And I'm always open to answer your questions, so feel free.
Yeah, we're not trying to demonize alcohol. I
No.
have the same problem with sugar, which is another whole episode coming. But it's definitely sometimes helped just to hear these things over and over again, and just be like, okay, someone else has said it. I've been thinking about it. Someone else has said it. I need to get on it. All right, that's our show for today. Leave a like. Please leave a review on Spotify or Apple or however you get your podcast. The podcast is doing well. We're really excited about it. We've had over 1,000 downloads. I think it's like 12 or 1,300 now.
Yeah.
And we want to keep bringing these to you, so we'd love for you to do that. Anything else, Deb?
I think that's it.
All right.
Until next time. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.